The United States Congress is on the verge of passing a bill that would create an office that studies UFOs, tries to figure out what they do and where they come from. And not only that, even I find very interesting, it instructs the Defense Department to create a science plan that basically would attempt to try to reverse engineer any of these objects. Whether just by trying to duplicate what they're able to do, just by from what they have, based on the video evidence that they have, or from recovered craft. Now, of course, I'm a person who believes that this has already been going on for a long time. However, it's interesting that now we actually have the Congress for the first time ever. There's a bill that's moving through. It's the Defense Authorization Act bill, the defense spending bill. As part of that bill, there was an amendment that's included in there from Senator Kirsten Gillibrand that basically it was what it does. It would establish an office that would look at anomaly surveillance, and an office that basically to surveil anomalies in the sky and to find out what they're all about. And I'm going to leave a link to this bill. You could actually read the entire text. It's pretty lengthy. It's let's see here. Hold on a second. It was the amendment that was a Senate amendment 4281. And you could read this amendment for yourself. I will leave a link for it. And one of the interesting aspects of it is the science plan that's included in there. In addition to the office that we're talking about here, they're talking about a science plan to determine, basically talking about reverse engineering these craft. Now, of course, like I said earlier, I believe that our United States government has been reverse engineering recovered extraterrestrial craft for decades. I mean, since the late 40s. I believe that there was something that crashed in Roswell that was from out of this world. And since that time, behind the scenes, things have been going on. However, I do applaud the Congress, because this is a bipartisan measure, by the way, so it's actually Democrats and Republicans seem to be all on board with this. And it has passed the House. This defense spending bill has passed through the House. So next it has to go through the Senate. And then, of course, it needs to be signed by the president. And again, as far as anybody could tell, this is the first time that Congress has took any kind of action with regard to UFOs. Anyway, according to the bill itself, I'm going to read this little section on the science plan. It says, the head of the office shall supervise the development and execution of a science plan on behalf of the secretary and the director to develop and test as practicable scientific theories to account for characteristics and performance of an unidentified aerial phenomena that exceed the known state of the art in science or technology, including in the areas of propulsion, aerodynamic control, signatures, structures, materials, sensors, countermeasures, weapons, electronics, and power generation, and to provide the foundation for potential future investments to replicate any such advanced characteristics and performance. So that's very, 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 very interesting. So imagine. So not only are they're creating their own. They're basically, this bill would require that the Defense Department create its own this office that reports to the Congress too, and there will be unclassified stuff that they need to report to the Congress too. That's not going to happen until about a year from now, though, unfortunately. But anyway, here's an article that was in military.com about this whole thing. Pentagon UFO rapid response teams ordered up by Congress. I'll read some of this for you, and I'll also leave the link for this article too. It says teams of Pentagon and intelligence community experts would rapidly respond to military UFO sightings and conduct field investigations under newly unveiled defense legislation set to pass Congress. Lawmakers also want scientific and technical experts to analyze data from the objects, or what the military calls unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, as well as any recovered materials or medical effects, according to the text of the annual Defense Authorization Bill released Tuesday. The bill requires all the findings to be collected under a new joint UAP office and delivered to Congress in annual reports and biannual briefings to defense committees, marking the most significant UFO legislation ever passed in the United States, following high-profile encounters with unknown objects reported by the Navy. Okay, I'm going to scan through this a little bit here. It says, and the article talks about some of the events that happened with the Tic Tac and all that. We're not going to get into that again, but if you want to read, you could read all about it again in this article. They rehash some of that, but then it talks about that maybe this stuff is China or Russia. It says theories on UAP range from drones or unmanned aircraft built by China or Russia to extraterrestrial or interdimensional visitors. The new legislation to collect and analyze data on such incidents was sponsored in separate bills by Gillibrand and Senator Gallego, and was co-sponsored by other senators, including Marco Rubio, Roy Blunt, Martin Heinrich, and Lindsey Graham. In addition to the rapid response field investigators, Congress also wants the Pentagon and intelligence community to create a science plan to understand UAP that exceed the known state-of-the-art in science or technology. The bill says the information could be used to justify requests for funding in the future to replicate any such advanced characteristics and performance, or reverse engineer the UAPs. Incidents around nuclear facilities are also noted for special attention. And as we know, there have been some incidents where UFOs show up at nuclear facilities and basically shut down the missile systems, and basically rendering them useless. That's been reported numerous times throughout the decades. And then later on it says, Congress has never before passed legislation on UFOs, and certainly nothing near the scope of the defense bill language, said Douglas Dean Johnson, a researcher who closely follows UAP-related developments in government and who has reported extensively on the Gallego and Gillibrand proposals. I have looked, and I think you will not find anything. You will find cases where Congress engaged in discourse on the issue, Johnson said. And that's about it. There's been times in Congress over the years where the subject of UFOs cropped up, but there was nothing ever, any kind of legislation that came forth that would called for the study of them. And then the article continues here. It says famous UFO initiatives in the 1940s through the 1950s, such as Project Blue Book under the Air Force and the Condon Report, sparked during a congressional committee hearing, were done without any legislation. Decades later, the military is set to embark on a new study of flying objects, but the defense bill makes clear it won't be on the Pentagon's own terms, and that much of the findings will be shared with Congress. And then it talks about how the Pentagon recently established that new its own group. Like some people think it's a way to try to undermine what the Congress has been trying to do here, so that basically the Pentagon people at the Pentagon can control all the UFO information. And this new group is called the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, or OMSG. Okay, and Yeah. Now, although the people at the Pentagon say this new group, the acronym for it is AOIMSG. Again, AOMSG. I don't know what you would, it's a mouthful. But anyway, they're saying that they're trying to be as transparent as they can. This is a Pentagon spokesperson, John Kirby, recently said, "We'll be as transparent as we can, but no, I don't want to leave you with the impression that there'll be sort of a regular drumbeat of some kind of report that gets posted on a website, every couple of months." So basically, they're talking about just continuing to keep stuff from the public, keep things away from the public about this subject. So yes, that's what they're trying to do. And Congress, hopefully, this bill prevents, should this defense spending bill ultimately pass, which appears like it will pass, then that should end any concern of the Pentagon doing some backhanded. It should end the Pentagon's backhanded attempt to try to keep this stuff secret. But anyway, so there you have it. So basically, this is amazing. I mean, so basically, after all this time, all these years, all the water under the bridge since 1947, finally, all that. I think about all the things that have happened. All the years that have gone by, all the people that have been lived and died. People who have been born and died. It's amazing. And then finally, now Congress is finally going to, doing something about this. Again, I do believe that this is all some sort of, slow disclosure we're getting. And I don't know if Congress is in on it or not, or they're just, who knows? I don't know what's going on. But I know that the Pentagon knows what's going on. And the Pentagon, people in the Pentagon, as well as I'm certain, some private industry over the decades, working with the Pentagon, working with the military, have been reverse engineering craft. I mean, we had Bob Lazar talking about this, and when he was working near Area 51, S4 in Nevada, back in the late 80s. He saw one of these craft that they were trying to. He saw 9 different craft there actually that were UFOs, flying saucers. That the government were trying to. Government scientists were trying to reverse engineer out there in the desert. That's what he's told this story for years, and I happen to believe this guy. I believe that Lazar has been telling the truth, and I believe that behind the scenes since 1947, there's been an effort to try to reverse engineer these things, and now finally we're going to get it. We're getting some action from Congress that makes it that okay, yes, we want you to start doing it. It makes it official. At least it lets the public know that if we do find these things, we want you to reverse engineer them now. Even though we know a lot of people know that this has been going on behind the scenes, it has to be. It has to be. It would have to be. I mean, if it wasn't going on behind the scenes for all this time, then then the people running the Pentagon would be a bunch of morons, total absolute idiots, right? And they're not. I don't believe that the people in the highest offices within the Pentagon are morons or idiots. I don't believe that for a second. I think they're pig-headed when it comes to this subject. I don't know. The public should have been told about this many years ago, right? They waited too long. I think they're pig-headed, right? But they're not stupid. But the people protecting the United States of America aren't dum-dums, okay? They're very smart people. So the group that's ever in charge of the UFO problem, for all whatever group, I mean, I'm sure people have come and gone in this group over the years, and these people, for whatever reason, have been keeping this a secret from the world, from the American people. For the people that they're working for, and I'm sure that in their minds there must be some sense that we're doing it. We are protecting them by keeping this a secret. That is protecting them, and okay, if that's what you believed. But you know what? It's the cat's out of the bag. Okay, you admitted to these objects on the video. You know that we all know it now. Okay, everybody knows. Okay, you don't know what they are. You have Luis Elizondo telling everybody, well, they're not from China, they're not from Russia. That would be preposterous because people have been seeing tic-tac kind of objects not since just 2004, but 1950. And we know that there's no way that nobody had any kind of technology that at that time of human existence in 1950. There's just no way. We're in the early days of jets. I mean, it's ridiculous to even think that. So, yes, there's been reverse engineering ongoing, but now it's official. It's official now. Actually, the bill did not pass yet, but it looks like I said it's poised to be passed. It's gone through the House. The Senate, is expected to pass this, and then, of course, the President Biden will most certainly sign it, and then that means this will become law, and there'll be a new office that will be established under the guidelines set forth in this bill as part of the amendment within the bill. that will basically that sets puts a roadmap. This is how you're going to do it. Okay, we're the boss, we're the people, we're the elected officials, and we're going to tell you how to do it now. That's what's going on. Now, for years, it's been unelected officials that have been have taken it upon themselves to keep this a secret. I believe in the early days, I believe that people like Harry Truman and Dwight Eisenhower, former presidents, I believe that people like that, they were elected, and I believe that they were part of early decisions to say, okay, we cannot let this out to the American public. This has to remain secret at the highest levels. I believe in the early days that's the case. I believe at some point after that, presidents, some here, maybe not all of them, but I would say a lot of presidents have been told the truth, but they were told that there's been something established that was determined many years ago that this needs to remain a secret because, we just don't understand it yet. Or whatever, or this is the kind of threat it poses if we let if this information out. These are military men, military-minded people in charge at the Pentagon that look at this as a threat. So okay, no matter what, it doesn't matter if these aliens seem friendly, but to them, as far as they're concerned, they just don't know enough about them. So we got to keep this secret. And I think this has been going on for years, and that's behind the scenes. There has been efforts to try to reverse engineer these objects. Again, listen to Bob Lazar. I know a lot of people out there don't believe this guy, but he had no reason to lie about this. Absolutely none. He never made any money off this. I mean, he basically, he's been ridiculed by half the country. Even some of my favorite ufologist in the world, the late Stanton Friedman, he didn't believe him. I mean, I think Stanton Friedman was a great guy. However, I think he was wrong when it came with regard to Bob Lazar. That's just me, though. It's like some people believe him and some people don't. Even if you don't believe him, even if you don't believe Bob Lazar, right? You would have to be an idiot to sit back and think that the government hasn't been studying this situation for all these decades. You'd have to be a fool. Right, you'd have to be. You'd be naive to believe that, and you know what I'm talking about, because they have been looking at this subject all these decades. They have to be, okay. And who knows where they're at? I mean, did they figure what have they figured out to this point? Who knows? Maybe nothing. I mean, again, I always think of it's possible they figured out something. Who knows? But I'm of the mindset that they probably not. Maybe they didn't even scratch the surface yet. I mean, if they recovered a craft at Roswell, as like I believe and a lot of other people believe, and for all these years they've been trying to reverse engineer that craft and others that they might have obtained, through the course of the decades after that incident, and they've been trying to reverse engineer these things. They still might not have. They might be able to operate them, but they might not just know how they tick. They just don't understand the process that makes them fly and makes them work. Because, I mean, it would be the same thing. Like if you could go back in time somehow to some of the greatest minds of history. Like say you went back in time, like I talked about this before, and you had a pocket calculator, a solar calculator in your back pocket, and you handed it to Socrates, right? Socrates is going to be able to figure out, okay, yeah, I could see I could add and subtract and multiply and divide and all these other things on this calculator. However, neither him nor anybody else from that period of time and for centuries after would be able to figure out how that calculator operated. They just would not. They wouldn't understand. They wouldn't understand. They would not figure it out. And I believe that that's most likely the case with these craft from outer space. And maybe it's taken all these years for the government. Maybe that's the reason here. Maybe it's taken all these years, okay, for the people working in the government to realize that we're just not anywhere close to figuring this out. And maybe that's why, well, I guess maybe let's disclose now. Again, this is all speculation on my behalf, wishful thinking probably. I want this to come out. I know, I don't need to get into it again. I've had my own experience. I know that these things are real. Okay, I know there's a presence here from someplace else and that's not human, right? And there's a lot of evidence out there that proves this, without the stuff that the Pentagon has admitted to already. Okay, So, yes, it could be at that. We could have reached a juncture, some time ago now. Like, well, we're not going to figure this out. This stuff is just so advanced that it's going to take centuries to figure this out. We're just not anywhere near ready for this. And maybe that's why it's like, okay, we just can't keep this a secret forever. Something's going to come out some point. So, okay, we're going to have to start disclosing it. We got to do it. And right now there's probably some people in the Pentagon are like, yeah, let's do it. And then some people in the Pentagon are like, no. There's going to be too many people who can't handle it. Actually, both sides would be right. There are going to be people. There's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be a lot of people out there who are not going to handle this. Okay, there's some people who just can't handle simple things. And like, can you imagine when this one's laid on them? Oh, what are you talking about, extraterrestrials? I don't believe it. This is nonsense. That's what they're going to say. Total nonsense. I don't believe. Even the proof, you have to show the proof right in front of their face. You could bring an alien out on a stage, a live alien, and they still won't believe it. So yeah, but we got to move on. We got to get over this hump already. And it looks like this is a major step for the United States to have Congress moving forward a bill that establishes an office that's going to study and determine what's going on, basically. What's going on? Where are these things from? Who's operating them? Who's controlling them? Hey, could we reverse engineer this technology and use it for our own purposes? Wow, this is big news. You don't see much on the mainstream press about this. Imagine, first time ever, and since this country's existence, the first time ever, right? A bill like the defense bill has language about UFOs, and it's creating a UFO office, reverse engineering UFOs. Okay, all that stuff is in there. You don't see. Well, how come this ain't the top story on the TV today? It should be. This should be the top story. This should be the top story all over the world right now. It should be, but it's not. Instead, we have Marjorie Greene's face on TV. That's that's some top story. Some moron, right? That's what's the top. That kind of nonsense, political bullshit. That's what's the top story on the TV screen tonight. Stuff that people really, doesn't matter. It's just some one person making stupid comments. That's what we're dealing with. When you have the biggest story of all time, and this was bipartisan, by the way. Again, this isn't political. Everybody wants to know about this. This is something everybody can get on the same page with. And yet it's not. This is the biggest story of all time, actually. The whole thing, not this part of it in particular, but the fact that this world, is right now, currently, there's an alien presence here. There's been an alien presence, that extraterrestrials from other planets. And as this podcast goes on, there will be more proof that's going to be presented to, some proof that people just have not considered. That some people out there, that it's out there right now, that some people don't even realize that it's not even there. They're just, because again, mainstream media has not presented this information to them. So anyhow, yeah, this is a big moment, Okay. And I think, I think this should be taking center stage right now in the news, in the United States at the very least, because it's a big story that we're creating an office. The people who represent the people that we've elected are putting together an office to study UFOs. That's the first time anything like that's ever really happened. And we're almost there. Like I said, the Senate, president signs his name, boom, office, time, Pentagon, hey, got to tell us, you got to give us something now. No more nonsense. I know the Pentagon's still going to there'll be some factions within the Pentagon that are going to try to keep it secret, but you know what? Hey, we're getting there. We're getting close.